Warlords. Welcome to Saga Thursday, the show all about the skirmish miniatures game from Studio Tomahawk. I'm your host, Rodge, joined once again by Monty. How's it going, buddy?
Good. Ready to rip.
Yeah, we are here doing it. Back with another, one of our monthly episodes, podcast style. So we do hit a lot of different topics, but the main topic today is the new Saga rulebook.
Yeah.
So this, I've heard, has been in the works for a while, but basically after the last episode, kind of all the rumors came out, confirmations, pre-orders went up. It kind of went from 0 to 60 in a relatively short order. Wouldn't you say, Monty?
Oh, yes. 0 to 100.
Yeah, so we are going to discuss some of the upcoming rules changes. Let's be clear, this isn't Saga 3.0. This isn't 3rd edition Saga. I would say it's kind of maybe Saga 2.5, something like that. There are a few rules changes, like outright stuff. And there's more clarifications in here. We're going to get into that whole thing a little later, though, because we've got some Saga news to clear up and a little bit of event chat as well. And let's get to the Saga news. Monty, the big news, besides the rulebook, of course, is Adepticon 2023. We have the Saga events have been finalized. Monty, you are not in the rules team this year. Just so if people have questions and stuff, don't send your private message to Monty. He can't help you. You have to direct it towards me. So we had Eric Heathen has come back in. So he's one of the original tournament guys. So it's cool to see him. And I've kind of stepped up my role. I'm actually providing the terrain this year, which is actually part of the reason Eric Heathen came back, because he traditionally was involved in the terrain and just couldn't handle it anymore. So we've got 4 days of Saga, and everything's been submitted. We've got the rules packs. I've been submitted. I think Matthias, he said that the Saga rules packs were the first ones submitted this year. So,
wow, nicely done.
Yeah, we are on the ball, people. Yep. So start your planning now. We're going to have some fun. On Thursday, we're going to be doing Age of Hannibal and Age of Alexander mixed 6-point tournament, singles. I'm going to be running that event. So Saga Thursday, of course, at Adepticon. On Friday, we're having Age of Magic. So chatting with the TOs and stuff like that, we decided Age of Magic is going to be part of the event every year because it draws a few different folks over to the Saga Hall, and I think it's cool to have those folks as part of the event. Saturday is going to be the doubles, and it's going to be Age of Melee, so mixed historical. Take whatever you want and mix it with whatever you want and just see what you guys can come up with. So the event is on Saturday this year, so it won't conflict with the bolt action doubles. I don't know, Monty, are you responsible for that? What's going on?
Nope, not me.
And then Sunday, we got the classic Age of Vikings event. And the rules for this, old friends and new enemies will be allowed this time, but otherwise it's just the Age of Vikings book. There will be limited mercs available for this event as well, and also for the Hannibal and Alexander. There's a little bit more to it than that, but you guys can see when the rules packs come out. Hopefully, registration for Adepticon, this is coming out, I don't know what the exact date here. Oh, December 1st. Wow, we are on the ball.
Wow.
So probably in a week or two after this coming out, I'm assuming the Adepticon stuff. So hopefully the rules packs will be out, and it's going to have all the tournament points and everything else, and then it has all the scenarios in there too up front. So you should have everything you need to plan your army and have a good time.
Fantastic. Well done.
Yeah. So Monty, are you going to ACON this year?
I'm trying to iron out a couple issues, but I should
Okay.
be, yes.
All right, cool. Now we know you're a bolt action fan. Are you going to split the days up, or what are you tentatively thinking here?
I mean, as much as I love bolt action, I love Saga just a little more. So I think my attention would be focused on Saga.
That's the good answer on the
Yes.
Saga Focus program.
Exactly, right?
On the bolt action show you're going on
Exactly.
later tonight, it might be a different.
You're a trader.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So I told you ahead of time, but so for Hannibal and Alexander, do you have a couple factions picked out if you're going to do that?
So I don't have, I have Carthaginians 3/4 of the way painted. And I say 3/4 because I sold them off and then I traded for part of them back. Could easily be rounded out, but I also just put in an order for an Age of Hannibal warband, and I still want to order an Age of Alexander warband, but I really need to simmer down and pick something and like actually play it and get ready.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So yeah, lots of potential there.
A lot of potential here. So you haven't committed to anything at this point. We'll keep folks up to date on that. Okay. Other news, we've got Fimbulwinter, of course, February 18th, 19th, 2023. So every month we are going through, and for the second scenario, we're playing Battle of Heroes, but I'm slowly eliminating options every month.
Yep.
And I've had my deck of cards. It's been sitting on my desk for like 4 months now. And each time I have to remember what we're doing here. But this month we're going to eliminate, this is a March column as a deployment option. So this is the one where you guys just kind of alternate deploying units after rolling a die. And I don't know. I don't think this really adds much strategery, and somebody can get unlucky and you have to deploy your entire army before the other guy. And I think it just kind of slows things down and isn't that fun. So I'm going to getting rid of it. We're axing it.
Nice.
Monty, did you see we've got some Fimbulwinter limited edition Saga sticks?
Yes.
So,
I was just talking to a buddy. He said his favorite swag is event swag, and I have a hat from a store that ran a bolt action event, and that's one of my favorite event swags. So yeah, those are awesome. Yeah,
so these are available. Originally they were just going to be giveaways, but I kind of pinged some people to see if they would be interested. I had a couple extra, but now we're going to be doing a whole second print run. So Saga Thursday patrons and Fimbulwinter attendees can buy these. So if you're interested, become one of those and you'll get some details. They are limited. Probably if you ping me when this video comes out, we might be able to hook you up if you're a patron or an attendee. But otherwise, once I put this second order in, that's going to be the end of it. Now, Monty, I did show you, I haven't shown anyone else yet, the very limited edition Grand Champion Saga sticks.
Yes.
So whoever comes out on top is going to be able to use these beauties and intimidate folks for the rest of their days with your Grand Champion Saga sticks.
Oh, did I mention I'm a champion?
Let me just lay this down here. Ooh, just so you know who you're dealing with.
Yep.
And yeah, the Grand Champion sticks, they're not for sale yet, but make me an offer and we'll see, what maybe I could be convinced to print off a second set for somebody. So yeah, signups are going good. Next time we're gonna have the pint glasses to share, hopefully. Nice. There's just a couple spots left. So we're at 21 signups confirmed, paid up, but I know, like I was saying last time, I think there's another 6 or 7 for sure. So it's coming along very well. I just put in an order for additional gaming mats. Get that Black Friday, Cyber Monday deal, Monty.
Right.
And it's locked in, and we're getting pumped, and it's going to be awesome. Now, speaking of events, I think you want to, Monty, that I just learned about it at events 5 minutes before we started this recording here. Do you want to talk a little bit about the online tournament?
Right. Just a few minutes because right now it's this kind of thing has been kicked around before, but it's picking up speed. In the Saga Thursday Discord channel under the TTS Tabletop Simulator thread, there have been a couple people who've thrown out and wanted to measure like interest in who would like to play in a basically tabletop simulator tournament. And there's been a really robust answer. There's been a lot of people who've posted up in there. So they're talking about taking a look at where the people are, like grouping them out, seeing how many are in the US, how many are in Europe, and then figure out like what their numbers are. So I would just say this. If you're not a member of the Saga Thursday Discord, why aren't you? Hurry up there and join because you can have cool things like this. And if you are and you like Tabletop Simulator, or even if you're newish and you just want to get better at it, a tournament would be a great way to do that. Like people will help you and guide you through that process.
So, yeah, I'm sure this is going to be a heck of a laid back, fun thing. I know it's early days, but I'm assuming this is going to be, here's the pairings for round one. You guys got 2 weeks or 3 weeks to figure out a time, get your game in, and then, get ready for round two. So, yeah, it'll be fun to be able to, you could theoretically save a game, like in the middle and lose something and then come back to it. If your opponent agrees, whatever. But, yeah, that's a great idea. I'm interested. I think I'll probably sign up. Awesome. We had a tabletop simulator game ourselves. I've had a couple recently after not trying it for a while. So I'm kind of primed and ready. I think I'm ready to take the plunge. But other events. So I went to Chicago for Awakening the Einherjar tournament, Age of Vikings. Now, we got a full show tonight, so I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to give the breakdown on a Patreon-only video, so it's going to be my tournament experience there. So there's some changes going on with the Patreon. I've been doing it about a year, and I'm not going to get into that in this episode. It's still about only 95% locked in. But basically from here on forward, there will be an exclusive Patreon Saga video every month. So this month, I've been doing them for the last couple months, kind of talking about what I've been up to. But so my event coverage of the Einherjar event will be on the Patreon video. So, Monty, you also went to an event. You brought home the gold, baby. Went down to Kansas City, right?
Lead with the headline there.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was going to say, I guess I will say at Awakening the Einherjar, I did not lose a game, but I was also not the winner of the event. Okay. Ended up tying at the end and losing out on the massacre survival points. Okay. So I was hoping, Monty, for a Saga Thursday, double tournament champions, coming in with the American flag, waving around. Yep. Couldn't bring it, but you brought it on your end, and so I'll let you talk a little bit about the event, maybe how some of your games went.
Right.
Don't dig in too deep, but
right. No, of course, we got a big show, so I'll be fairly quick. First of all, it was an amazing event. I love it, and I'd like to participate again in the future and see if we could fire one up here. So what they did was an Ironman. And an Ironman event is a little tricky because you have to provide everything. Like when I came down to the club, they had 8 tables set up with 16 factions. The factions were matched within the universe, and they were a sprinkling of all of the historical books were out on those tables. And they took the extra step of making historical matchups, which you don't have to do clearly, but there it was. So drive all the way down there. Game one, just so excited. It's like, Monty, you're on this table. I walk up. It's Charles's late Romans versus my Sassanids. And let the blood run. And if I could just like sum it up in one way, Charles's late Romans can shoot from damn near everything, and my Sassas have one big shoot a turn. And after a couple turns, I started to shake my head, and I thought, my God, I've got in the car. I drove 7 hours to come down here to get my ass kicked, and it's going to be so humbling to go like, "How did your game go?" And I go, "I came out of game one, and I fell right on my face." So, so I was like sweating. I was sweating and sweating and sweating. I had an eye on his warlord, and at a key moment, I kind of threw my elephant wildly on a flank and beat up his archers. And then the turn after, he didn't fall to shooting. I made all my shooting saves. And after that, I made a double move charge on his mounted warlord, took him out, and that saved me the game. So it was like, you get past game one, I'm exhausted. I'm like, wait, there are 2 more games to go. My game 2 was really cagey. It was the Scots versus the Vikings. And you think, oh, that's a slam dunk. But see, they've already put a lot of work in this. This is part of the organizers' work. They kind of slightly hamstrung the Scots by making the Warlord mounted and the Hearthguard mounted. And guess what? I hadn't played Scots in years, and nor had I seen them in a long time. So I had my mounted Hearthguard. They're getting hammered by the Vikings. I go to lift. I think it's long spears, long spears, the defensive play. And I go, I will counter with this. And then I look and I'm like, oh, wait, infantry only. So my mounted Hearthguard got just blown off the table. I was getting, again, round 2. I'm fluffing my saves. That he's playing Uller and rolling 6s out of his head. I'm just getting buried in hits. And so at some point I realized this one's slipping away and it's not going well. So I just started playing Reach every turn. I didn't even go into combat.
Shoot, yeah.
I gave up on like combats. They're all going sideways for him. So I'm just reach, and just pecking away. And when the game ended, just barely, I had the minimum amount of points to get a victory. And so I actually was worried. Like I knew Stephen, our U.S. Grand Melee winner, I yelled out to him how he was doing, and he was racking up like max points in all his games. So I was like, my God, I may not even make the top table. And they yell out what the final top table is, and I'm so happy. It turns out to be Stephen and me. But he's already leading like by points, and I'm like, I can't just like get close. I have to get a max point victory over him. So we walk up to the table. And first of all, we're just so happy. Like I came down there to see him and see his club, and it was just so cool that we're finishing with an actual game. And the two factions were Matataouia versus Militis Christi.
Yeah.
And I looked at Stephen and I said, well, this is a game that's going to be decided on the roll here. I go, if I end up with Militis Christi, I played them one time, and you've played them. He's played them enough that he was going to take them to Acon.
Oh,
and so I'm like,
okay.
yeah, and he knows both sides. So I'm like, I'm the guy who is going to lose and so Stephen rolled, and he got the Militis Christi, and credit Stephen. He showed me a style of play with the Militis Christi I've never seen before. And he was doing so good with double loading his Orison every turn. And it was really cagey. You would think this would be a match with lots of haymakers. It was the three objectives in the middle. But so we're playing very cagey. We're trying not to throw haymakers. And it went kind of slow. But I do know the Matataouia very well. And so
built them 4 times, right?
Seriously, I played them a lot. So so late game, I got a little bit of luck rolling and pulled up the wind and I had no idea, right? Like you just said, like you lost none of your games, and you still might not be the top player. So I'm kind of waiting, and they're like, okay, Iron Man champion Monty. And so I was like, oh, that was skin of my teeth. 3 hard opponents, 3 tough games. My dice weren't the best to me, but no excuses. It was just a blast from A to Z.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, it sounded like a fun event. Definitely. Yeah, you guys should consider doing something, because there's so many different ways you could do it too. So you guys could roll up and you have to bid for sides or something like that.
Yeah.
What's it worth? What's it worth to you taking the nuts? You guys had they had the specific matchups already. At the start of each round, though, you could see, a different, take one of the 10 armies and you don't know who you're going up against, or, there's so many different ways you could do it. So it sounded like everything worked well for them. And,
Yeah, it did.
It's
It
really
was
cool.
well attended, went flawlessly, just great guys. Really had a lot of energy coming home. And my wife and daughter came along to go see the sights in KC, and they politely listened to my stories for as long as they could stand them on the way home.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I'm definitely interested in heading down to that event next year. I probably have to head over to the cities and maybe carpool, but
Oh, yeah.
yeah, it's
We
not
could do
that
that.
far away from you guys, actually. I'm at that diagonal, so it takes a
Right.
little longer, but okay. Well, let's move on to the main event here.
Yep.
And so we've got our hands on the new Saga rulebook. So we've taken a look at this, and it actually might have been easier if we had just the fact doc instead. Did you think that, Monty?
Yes. There's a lot to read, right?
Yeah. So we have sussed out some of the changes here. So yeah, once again, this is a new edition. This book incorporates the previous facts. There's another fact coming out when this book comes out. So that's going to be, I think, three facts are incorporated into this. So some of the changes that are in there have been incorporated into this. And then in addition, there's new stuff that's been clarified. A lot of this looks to be just kind of additional language clarifying things. But there are some kind of concrete changes. So we're going to talk about 6 of those changes. So we've identified, I think, at least 8 or 9. So we're not going to give it all away. We're going to save some discoveries for you folks out there. But most of these are pretty fun. And I think this will just be our top 6 changes in no particular order. And let's start off with just the first one there. Probably maybe obvious to some, not obvious to others, but the finalized warband mustering, the optional rule from the FAQ, is now enshrined in the rule book as an official option. What do you think of that, Monty?
That's awesome. Like, it just cuts out all debate. And I mean, to my mind, it's only good for the game. There's really no downside to it. So I'm happy that this moved from just like talk to your opponents to like this is part of the core game. Yeah.
So you'll be able to swap, 2 levy or 2 Hearthguard for 4 warriors or 6 levy. You'll be able to do one of those swaps per game, but that should be able to cover whatever you want to do mainly. So I think this is great. Yeah, there's no reason not to do this. There's nothing wrong here. It just adds so many options, and I love it. I was happy to see that in there. Monty, another rule people have been chomping at the bit for, and I was kind of curious how they were going to work this in, but it's called "Who Can Do More Can Do Less." So that's the heading.
Yep.
And do you want to see if you can explain it? It's quite simple, but it might be difficult to explain.
Right. So, Rodge, I want to be very careful here because like this has just popped across my screen so recently, and I'll make sure I understand this. I wish we could have kind of level set on this just to make sure. So, if I understand this right, advanced abilities that call for X. And there's always that debate that, like, if you can't meet X, then you can't do it?
Yes. So let's think of, I believe the Orange Shot have an ability that says, reroll 3 of your failed hits.
Right.
If you use a rare, reroll 6 of your failed hits. Now, I believe, prior facts have stated or, kind of explicitly or behind the line stated that if you, for example, just missed twice, you had 2 misses, you could argue that you cannot satisfy the criteria for the Saga ability, so it doesn't go off. And so, like, you know, if you think about it, it doesn't really make sense. I mean, you could foresee, like, you know, they could write a Saga ability like that for whatever reason. You know, it's great, but it doesn't always go off. But then you say, well, it uses the rare to reroll 6 failed hits. Well, like, that's a lot of.
Yeah.
How many attacks am I throwing out here? Like,
Exactly.
you know, the ability is like worse.
Agree.
If you kind of play it literally like that. So this, who can do more, can do less. Ruling kind of addresses this, and I think it's on page 7, so I'm way out ahead here. But basically, if you have an ability where it says use X, I think it'll be better if I can just read it.
Mm-hmm. I got it up here.
You got it up? Okay, you read it. Yeah.
When one of your game effects is limited to X instances, parentheses, send 3 units to hell, for example, you can always limit yourself to fewer instances. In our example, you could decide to only consign 2 units to infernal carbonization. Note, however, that this does not apply to a rule or Saga ability that says all. In this case, all means all. So if a rule states you activate all your units, you activate all of them. Yeah, I like it, Rodge. I mean, It's hard. I know what they were trying to do, and, you know, it's difficult writing herd over all the boards. But when it gets harder to play your board and use your abilities, it's kind of frustrating. So I really like this fix/clarification.
Yeah, I think it's good. You know, they could have. Fact, you know, I think there is like 5 or 8 boards that kind of have issues like this.
Yep.
But I like this because if something slips through in the future, you know, it's not the end of the world. We have this ruling here to kind of clarify it. And yeah, I agree. It didn't make sense before. And that's why I never really brought it up on the show here, because I didn't want to give people the idea that you should kind of rule it explicitly. So I think this is the way to do it, and I'm happy that they were able to kind of so succinctly state it in the rules. So yeah, people have been jonesing for that for a while since it came up, so I'm happy to see it in there. All right, I'll give you an easy one here, Monty. Javelins. What's going on with javelins?
Yes, you know I love javelins. All the javelin levy shooters and my Welsh. So I love this one. It's actually a couple parts. I had to kind of chew on it to pick it up. So I really should probably go to the page. I have it clipped in here just to save time. So we know that you get a +1 javelin when charging. So the first part of the change of javelins is they wrote, this bonus doesn't apply if the opponent has solid cover, whether the cover comes from terrain they're in, a special rule, or the decision to close ranks. And that's interesting because I went back, like close ranks was in there, but the solid cover is new and the special rule is new. And then the bigger change, really, the one...
Yeah, so I just want to kind of chew on that solid cover thing. So I'm curious. I'm going to have to go back and read. But when second edition came out, you know, I didn't read it like this, where closing ranks basically gives you solid cover. And maybe the rules say that, but in my mind, those were always 2 separate things. But I think rules-wise, they're really trying to tie those together with... as boards have come out. And I don't know, do you have a comment on that, Monty?
No, I think you're right. Like if anyone else was reading this, you know, post it down below. The way I read it, and I pulled out the FAQ a couple hours ago just to prep for the show. And the FAQ, when it talked about like denying that +1, it said close ranks.
Close ranks specifically.
Yeah, it didn't say, oh, if you're in solid cover, you know, your levy's in solid cover, and I go in there with, like, say, my javelin guys. Didn't say anything about that. So I feel like this is new.
Yeah, I think this is new. And I guess my kind of thing was, you know, I think at the beginning, close ranks and solid cover were kind of different things. But I think they've really tried to merge, you know, because sometimes in these additional boards that would come out, you'd read the little clarifications and, closing ranks and solid cover were considered the same thing. For the, on the Polish board, there's an ability there. So it's like, oh, interesting. I wouldn't have thought of that, but I guess it is. So I think this is just kind of reinforcing that closing ranks kind of gives you solid cover. I mean, I don't want to be confusing people or anything like that, but I think it's a good move because it seems like that's the intent. Is they're kind of the same things, rules wise, that it goes out. So I think that's really cool. So obviously, when you're going up against those stupid levy hanging out in the in the car, it's going to be even harder to wrench those guys out with your javelin boys.
It's true. Sam Knights, they're going to be very disappointed.
Mm-hmm. So one tick against javelins with this ruling. Monty, I'll let you do the second point here.
Right. And the other one I like quite a lot too, because I think it goes to your issue of commonality, like finding like things, grouping together, and making rules similar.
Yes.
So once during each player's activation phase, a unit equipped with javelins can be activated to shoot for free. This activation generates no fatigue. So it used to be that after you made a move, you would take your free shoot. You can now do things, plural, and hold that shoot and just pick a time for the free shoot. I guess it could be before you move, after you move.
Yeah, so this adds definitely some options for players. And yeah, I agree. I like this one. It brings it in line basically with composite bows.
Yes.
The rules are similar.
Yep.
So, javelins are like a one-time composite bow shot. And players, there was a clue in Age of Alexander because the Sarissas got the same treatment.
Yes.
It used to be in Hannibal, they had to move to trigger the additional shooting. And in Alexander, it just... You didn't have to move to trigger it. So the Sarissas are in line too with how this works. So I think this is really slick. Cuts down on confusion. Obviously, they were carrying things forward from like first edition, the way it was set up. But, it did cause some issues. And they they did have to fact that you didn't have to do the activation immediately afterwards, because of multi-activations and stuff like that. So, yeah, I like this because of the, like you said, the commonality. So they're all using they all kind of work the same way.
Mm-hmm.
The composite, the Sarissas, the javelins. You just get a free shot once per turn. So it's really interesting because you think about like the levy. You'd have to spend a dice to get the shot out of them. Now, if you end your movement within medium of like those levy or any other javelin unit, they don't have to spend a saga die to do anything. They can just shoot for free. Now, the downside is, if you play composite bows, you realize this. You can take the free shot immediately, but then on the move, everything thereafter, you'll take a fatigue on that first move. So it's kind of, I think it's a good option to have. Opens things up. I think specifically, mostly for I would say the levy, because having to sling an uncommon or rare dice for those guys can be pricey. But now if they're close, you can take a shot for free.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, especially too, once your units get depleted, and like you don't want to, you wouldn't activate a unit of 3 warriors to do a move and get a shot necessarily, but if they're standing next to the enemy, take your free shots.
Exactly.
So those little tiny units can get some damage in there. So, so 1 pip in the javelin's favor here.
I like it. Rodge, before we go on, can I sneak out one thing?
Mm-hmm.
And I want to be careful. I heard this from a really well-placed source, and I know there was a little chatter at my club, so other people might have the same idea. People have noticed the difference between the Age of Alexander Sarissa rule, where you don't have to move to get your free shoot /poke, and then the Age of Hannibal version, where you do have to move. I have heard that the Age of Hannibal is going to get an FAQ to bring their Sarissa rules in line with the Age of Alexander.
I'm almost certain.
Yeah,
like
that's
100% certain, because it wouldn't make sense to kind of leave it as is.
Exactly. You got to bring them in line.
Yeah, and so I guess we can touch that. So this fact that's coming out is going to be just the rule book only, and they are working on the different age universe facts as well. So sometimes, hopefully, first quarter maybe, but we can't hold anybody to anything. So take that with a grain of salt, but they're working on it. So yeah, I would expect Hannibal to be addressed, and really I would just play it that way. Right. If anyone complained, just say Rodge and Monty told me that I could play it that way.
I like it.
Because it doesn't make any sense otherwise, how to do that. So, all right. Monty, what's going on with terrain?
So this, okay, again, I'm hedging, because what if I say X, you go, that's not quite right. So my reading is that being in terrain, the definition has changed, that all of the bases of all of the figures must be in. So all of the base means you can't do the part where like a toe is hanging out or just a toe is in.
Yeah.
All in all is in. Yeah.
So all is all. This one, yeah, I'm fine with it.
Yeah.
Because, you could have, your warlord, he's got 2 millimeters touching the hard rocks, so he gains the bonus, but he's got an extra little reach there for his first short move, so he's got a little bit bigger of a threat area. And so yeah, this one, as far as, I'm fine with it. It was definitely playable before. I think this is better for new players, kind of understanding, because you'd be like, well, you're out of the terrain, but you still get the bonus, kind of deal.
Yep.
You're like, well, yes, that's true, but you see, the bases are in, so these guys count as being in, and when these guys count, then the whole unit counts. And so I like this change, and yeah, I don't have any issue with this.
Works for me.
This is probably, well, javelins will definitely be a different play, but everybody's going to have to learn how to play the terrain a little bit differently based off this one. One other change. So we got 2 more to go here. Mm-hmm. So this one's little, but I love it. And so for unit coherency, it was always based off the first guy that moved.
Yep.
And there were specific rules, and everybody had to be within short of that guy. And, it didn't matter until it mattered. And then when it did matter, you would just say, well, yeah, I suppose that, but if I would have moved this guy first, then everything is fine. So it's for movement, it's been changed. So it's not the first model that determines unit coherency. You basically essentially move the unit, and then you pick one model, the reference figure, and he determines the unit coherency. So as long as you have, just a guy in the middle and everybody's in the short of that guy for an infantry unit, you're good. So you're just, that guy, he's the reference guy. So this is a legal formation. And I like this one. It's so simple. I've kind of been waiting for, like in my video battle reports, because nobody's really careful about their movement and stuff like that. So, if you watch the battle reports, you can see, I moved the first guy. The whole unit formation is legal, but I moved the first guy on the end, and I moved this guy on the end, and then the end of the unit ended up being 8 inches away from that guy. It's still a legal unit, but I would have had to move a different guy first. So it's like, what's the point here? So this kind of cuts that out and just kind of clarifies, if you can form a legal unit at the end of your move, you're good to go. Now for charging, you still will have to pull it from the first guy, and so the charges work the same. But that's one change that I was happy to see. Thought it was clever.
Yep.
Nice quality of life change there. Monty, I've saved the biggest one.
The juiciest.
For last. And it has to do with fatigues being generated by units which have been destroyed.
Yep.
So this is an outright change. And we've got a video that's not going to be valid anymore explaining the tactics of casualty removal because this change here renders that moot.
Right.
So what's the change with units being destroyed and causing fatigue on their buddies?
I like this actually a lot, and I have some thoughts as we kind of chew on this for a minute or two. When measuring the radius of S, use the position of the figures, plural, before the casualties that eliminated the unit are removed. So basically, if you are the Goths and you blow up an 8, 9, 10-man levy unit, before your buddy sweeps them, have him measure S from all of the figures.
Yeah, so previously it was just the last model removed.
Yep. So a lot of strategery in finding like on that 10-man unit, they find the one at the very end that's farthest away, and maybe no one gets fatigued.
Yeah, so getting fatigue bombs off was pretty tricky in second edition. It didn't happen that much as compared to. So this is the first edition rule. You know, things are hazy for me at this point, but I think that's how it worked in first edition.
Right, I think
Monty?
so. Yeah.
Yeah. So. It was definitely a change for a lot of folks, and some people really didn't like that. I was fine with it. There's a tactical element, but it did cut down on the bubble. So the bubble was always basically just about 2 shorts wide plus the base. So now you can go balls to the wall if you can eliminate that unit
right
in one go. You can do a lot of carnage. With a fatigue bomb. So yeah, I'm fine with this. I don't have an issue. I think definitely this could change how you move your units around because if you're a good player, you are cognizant of the kind of ranges for fatigue bombs, as we say, and so you just kind of have to reformulate that range and make sure. If you want to keep it out, your unit can't be within short period where previously, if you have a guy way out in the front, you're like, okay, that's the guy. That's going to go last if it comes down to it. So, the rest of the unit could be well within short, kind of depending on the formation here. So, some people will be pretty pumped to see this come back. I don't know. Is this going to change how you play, Monty?
I don't think it'll change how I play. I kind of lean into this, and that's what I like. Is I think if you look and you're running a faction that can like erase units, then why wouldn't you reach for it and try to do it? Because before you hit that 10-man unit, they make the 10th one the farthest away and the least impact. You wipe out that same 10-man unit and they're all gone. And it's like that could be pretty devastating. And of course, it's not one directional, it's both directions. So I think the net result is going to be like some wild, hard swings, more fatigue. And we know how powerful that is. Like once you get that first fatigue down, bad things start happening for you. So I like it.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's kind of a little micro buff to Hearthguard. So you're not going to have as big a footprint with your Hearthguard. So
right. Good point.
It's a little buff there. The levy is so hard. If you can wipe out 12 levy in one go, or even 10 or 9, 10, 11, that's pretty tough to do. So,
it is tough.
It could be a downside there, but I think it's definitely going to benefit those armies that can really kind of take it up a notch by combining their abilities. So Vikings, the Berserker unit, I would definitely reconsider that. I know some people don't like them. You know, people will adjust their units so it's only just a trade, but if you can trade them at the right time and put fatigue on every unit in the other guy's army, that could
set up that Ragnarok.
Yeah, so that's definitely a lot more possible now. So I think, the Vikings, the Pagan Rus, can really dial it up. The Scots sometimes, with a couple of those abilities. So, pretty cool. And then again for shooting, can make a big deal there too. If you can, because you could, there were rules on which models could be removed, so there was some tactics there. But with shooting, you could always, it was just whatever models you wanted to remove as casualties, and then to come from the last one. So, the Irish, deleting a unit that it happened to me at Iron Harrier. A unit of 7 warriors was deleted in one round of shooting against some Irish. So that would have been a pretty massive explosion.
Right.
So, all right. That is basically all we're going to say about it. So there are a couple, these are rule changes. So there are some additional ones that we identified. We'll let you guys kind of suss those out. So we're going to come back next month, and we're going to get some games in, and we'll probably talk about those ones that we didn't talk about this time, those rules changes. And then I'll be curious to see what everybody else finds, because there's probably some stuff that you and I are missing on this go around, I'm sure.
Yeah, right.
But we'll come back, get some games in with the new fatigue bombs and terrain rules. No matter what army you're playing, you're going to have to get used to that. So I'm pretty excited about this. Monty, are you going to pick up this rule book here?
Not just for me, but for 3 other club members. We're going to put in a group buy and get them from, the UK, get them shipped out.
Awesome. Yeah, I think I'm going to get my hands on it as well. I really like what they've done with it. I want to support the product. It raises the question, Monty, are we going to get, new versions of the Age of Vikings book and new battle boards with changes and stuff on that? So to be clear, I don't have any special knowledge about anything else like that. But what would you like to see that, Monty, or not?
So, this is tough. This is a whole nother rabbit hole. Could do a whole nother show on this. I get my buddies who play other rule sets. They're like, in such and such setup, it's all digital. So as the universe evolves, you can change it digitally. And of course, that makes it easier. And that's not what we're dealing with here. We have our paper product and paper rule set. That's just the fact.
Yes. Those companies are selling models. So that's their business model. They can change the rules.
Exactly.
Studio Tomahawk, it's not a big company, but
yes,
all they're doing is make the rules. So it's tough to have a digital product like that.
Correct. My gut tells me that they've made kind of incremental changes, and just recently, I thought this was fascinating. Every time you see a tournament result, you go to you look at the Polish Grand Melee, you see these warbands win. You go to the French Grand Melee, it's changed. You go to the UK Grand Melee, it's changed. What I love is that it's just a constant swirl. It's not like the same warbands win everything all the time. And in fact, at the UK Grand Melee, I think 4 of the 5 were out of Age of Vikings. So if you ever thought there was sometimes one or two of my buddies would be like, scale creep, or this book is better than the other books. And then you look at the results, you're like, well, can't be that much better, because look at that. It's Welsh, it's Scots, it's Welsh, and something else, right? It's the originals are still good. So I mean, it could happen. I'd be surprised because it seems like they tend to want to FAQ stuff and make small board changes. But certainly the owner and the creator can always go back and change his mind. And if he was going to do it, help the Vikings. That's all I would say.
Yeah, well, there's there's kind of two ways to do it. So you kind of talked more about, kind of tweaking things with a new book. So you could definitely do that. You could also just say, this is the Age of Vikings, the next print run is just going to have the existing fact stuff built into it, and the board change it,
Okay,
So it's just those few boards that, already have a fact.
Yep.
You could have a fact come out at the same time.
Yeah.
Like the rule book here. And you could do some like tweaks with that. I think their business model actually is kind of set up okay to maybe do that because they do limited print runs of these books. So sometimes Vikings gets hard to find. There's no more Crusade books. Does anybody know where their one is? So they're going to print a new one.
Right.
When the old ones kind of run out.
Okay.
So they're already going to print a print one. So they're just going to print the old one. That they know has the issues, or why not just put the changes in there?
That's brilliant. I like that. I like that business model. I missed it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
If they sold out of the old ones and they're going to do a new print run anyways, well, you might as well just have the fact stuff in there.
Agreed.
Now I think that'd be good. If you're anal retentive like me, you might buy the new bike just to get the new boards.
Right.
I mean,
same.
And you could even have like a board pack or something. Every battle board that's been fact, there's probably 10 or 15 or something at this point. You could just have a little pack of all the boards in the official card stock and design and stuff, for the people who don't like updating their little squares on the board.
Yep.
It's interesting. I guess what I wouldn't want to see is we've got the Age of Vikings boards. They print out a new version that has all the facts on it. It's a couple years down the road. There's another fact, and then they do another print run. So there's like, either it could be like 3 different battle boards of the same one that are slightly different. I guess, that could be confusing. I don't know. I'd be curious what you guys all think about this. I think the rule book is a slam dunk here. I think with the Age of Viking books, it gets a little more complicated, but probably I would say just do it. Just if you're going to do another print one, just put the fact changes on there. Make sure you have the right product going out the door. I don't know. What do you say, Monty?
I agree. I went kind of in the wrong direction there, thinking like it'd be more wholesale changes. But I like what you've done, which is the FAQ is already out there. The board changes already out there. Just make it easy. And for the people who don't want to spend the money, they can still use the other version. They can use the FAQs. They don't have to jump on board and spend.
Yeah. So if you got the old stuff, you got the facts, you're good. If you're coming in new, you're getting the right stuff out of the gate. You don't have a outdated product. But I don't know, it's too much probably to get into at this point, but you do raise a good point. Why not an Age of Vikings 2.0 or a redo? It's possible. It could be done, just with a kind of wholesale rebalance and get those Vikings up to snuff for you, Monty.
Start winning tournaments.
Yeah.
The halls will ring out with Ragnarok.
Yeah. I guess with that, I'd probably rather see, if they're going to redo an old book, that means a new book is going to be delayed. So I would rather see new books.
That's true.
So I think you're with me on that. Okay. So that's enough chat about rules, editions, stuff like that. Definitely keep your eyes peeled. I don't know the date when the FAQ or rule book is coming out, but it's sometime in December. So definitely check that out. It'll probably be pretty easy to suss out all the changes off that FAQ document. As if it's changed, it's going to be on there. So, do we have anything more to talk about here? Of course we do. The Saga Thursday Discord, Monty. We're up to 680 members.
Wow.
That is bananas. So definitely the invite link is below. Get on there. Consider joining the Tabletop Simulator Tournament. And another way you can support the show is the Saga Thursday Patreon. So like I said, there's changes afoot. I'm not going to speak more on it this episode, but next episode I'll just kind of do a refresher and kind of go down the different tiers and what's changed from last year. So real quick though, there will be an additional video for the Patreon. So I'm going to talk about my games at Awakening the Einherjar this month primarily. So if you're interested in that, check it out. And we do have to, of course, thank Terry, Patrick, Sean, Mitchell, Kevin, Scott, and the existing patrons. We won't be able to do this without those guys. And yeah, thanks to everybody. And looking forward to the new format with all of you. There's going to be some fun stuff for sure. Okay, where am I? I'm getting confused. Next week, so that is going to be December 8th, is going to be a Saracens faction review with Hamza. So it was really good chatting with him once again. And that's the last book or faction from Age of Crusades. So that's going to clear out the Age of Crusades for us.
Nice.
And the following week, so that would be the 15th, will be the first faction from Age of Hannibal, the Carthaginians. So I'm talking with Jed from the UK on that one. And yeah, that was a fun discussion. Monty, at least give it a listen before you decide to pass on the Carthaginian force.
Of course.
All right, buddy?
They're very versatile. I'm excited to hear both of every show, honestly, but Hamza and hear about the Carthaginians. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, so two good episodes for sure. And yeah, that's going to round it out for this week. Definitely comment below about what do you think about updating future Age of supplements if they were to reprint them with the facts already incorporated. Should they do that? Why shouldn't they? And yeah, curious to hear your thoughts on the rules changes we discussed so far. Pro or con? Are there going to be some sticklers who stick with the purity of Saga versions 2.1 and 2.2? Bonnie, I'm not gonna play this new fact. I don't recognize the latest fact. If we play, we're gonna have to play the old way.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Hopefully, yeah. I don't think any of these changes are gonna draw out that behavior. But there's still those first edition guys out there. You see them post every once in a while.
Yep.
It's like, come on, get on board, man. 2.0. That's where it's at.
Right.
All right, Monty, it's been a blast chatting with you. Thanks for coming on and doing this. We'll do it again next month. We will have paint contest next month. Get some more details out on that when I figure it out. But we're going to be done for this one. All right. Later, Monty.
Bye-bye.
Saga! If you'd like to see more Saga content, consider joining the Heathen Army over on Patreon or popping on down to the Saga Thursday Discord server. Links below. Thanks, guys.